Hello, today we're going to start talking about congruent triangles and really how they're identical when they're mapped with some sort of sequence of transformations, and being able to identify pieces and parts of identical triangles becomes really important, especially as we begin our proofs. Understanding what is meant by side, side angle, vocabulary words such as adjacent, between, and especially included or corresponding become really important. So as we're looking at this, we're going to fill in the blanks of the sentences down below with the words between, adjacent to, opposite to, included. And a couple of these are actually sort of synonymous, and you're going to hear them interchanged, but between and the included side or angle are sort of the same. So when I look at this and it says angle A, so let's identify angle A. Angle A is blank to sides AB and AC. And so from the looks of it, it's kind of between the two. But this would be the included angle. So if you're looking at that word, or what's between the two sides. And so the included angle is going to be vocabulary that you're going to utilize, especially in the next few days as we start looking at triangle congruency proofs. And then we have angle B is blank AB, so this side, and BC. And so it's going to be the identical statement. It is the included angle to side AB or BC, or it's between them. And so you want to start to make a connection between the word included and between. Side AB, so side AB is blank to C. Well, it's not adjacent to, which would be next to, and it's not the included because we're talking about angle C. And so this would be opposite to, is opposite to. And as we look into trig, that's a really important understanding there, but we're not going to get to trig for a little bit. Side blank is included, is the included side of angle B and C. So if I'm looking at these two angles, side BC is the included side. Angle blank is opposite to AC, so first thing I really need to do is identify where AC is. AC is my blue. And then I need to figure out what's opposite of the blue, which is angle B. And just a reminder, what opposite means is to the other side. So angle B is opposite to the side AC. And so we've got a lot of vocabulary going on here. Make sure you clarify any of the words as you're going through this that you're struggling with. Sometimes visuals help, where you draw an arrow to indicate opposite. Next to would be adjacent. Between and included, you're connecting those. So side AB is between the angle A and B, and finally, what is the included angle between the sides AB and BC? And what you can notice is it shares a letter, so angle B would be the included angle between those two sides. Okay, so that just is a vocabulary introduction. You're going to be seeing these words a lot. You're going to see the words adjacent and opposite in trig. The included side and between, this is going to be your triangle congruence proofs. And so it becomes really important that you're familiar with this vocabulary. Okay, on the back. now that we know what to call the parts within a triangle, we need to consider how to discuss the two triangles. And basically what they're saying is that they can create, say these triangles didn't have this definitive look to them, they can create a correspondence any which way they really want. And so you cannot assume, that's the one thing that's really tough in geometry, is you cannot assume details about the problem. And so what they're saying is that I can declare to you that A goes with X. And now if you look at the picture, they don't look identical, but you've got to go with what they tell you. And so A could go with X, B could go with Y, C could go with Z, and it'd be in alphabetical order. But they could go sort of in any order that they want, and that's what these other arrows are trying to indicate to you. So A could go with X, B could go with Z, C could go with Y, A could go with Y, B could go with X, C could go with Z, and so on. It could be all switched up. And so a simpler way for us to communicate this, rather than having all these arrows, is with these triangles. And basically the order of the letters is the agreement between the corresponding parts. So the correspondence determined by the order of the letters. And so A would go with X, B would go with Y, and C would go with Z. And that's what's being communicated by this. And notice how they switch when they want a different correspondence to be communicated. They give you different letter orderings. And so if I circle these, color code them, you can kind of look back upon them and see exactly what I'm talking about. So again, this might be an excellent time for you to pause the video just to get a deeper understanding of what I mean by these orderings. So notice A mapped with Y, and Y is the very first letter of the triangles. So order matters. Okay? So if we look down here, it says A goes with Y, so this is just practice. Let me highlight so you can sort of pick up within the language of the problem what you're identifying. So there's the written correspondence. A goes with Y, B goes with X, and C goes with Z. And everything then follows. So this angle B has to go with angle X, angle C goes with angle Z. BC, so where's BC in here? BC, that has to go with X, Z. And CA, so even though normally we'd put A, then C, we have to go with what we have here. So C corresponds to Z, A corresponds to X, and so the order matters. And I really cannot stress this enough. It's one of those things that they test you on in a quiz by doing some tricky things. So just be careful. So now I have an example. It says, given the following triangle correspondences, use double arrows to show the correspondence between vertices, angles, and sides. And so what are the corresponding vertices? Well, A corresponds to S. And notice they're not telling us that triangles are the same. In fact, I think the triangle RST is a little bit smaller than this. And so what we're really doing is identifying correspondence. So A goes with S, B goes with T, and C corresponds to R. Correspondence of angles. Angle A corresponds to angle S. Angle B corresponds to angle T. Angle C corresponds to angle R. And sides, I can pre-write these AB, AC, and BC. And so we just have to match things up properly. So A goes with S, B goes with T, and so segment AB corresponds to segment ST. Segment AC corresponds to SR, and BC would be T goes with B, and R goes with C, so TR goes with BC. Okay, and so those would be the correspondence, the way we write it. Finally, we can talk about where this comes from. And so if we look at figure 2, notice how you can sort of twist, you can rotate this image onto that, and so the corresponding parts would be A goes with X, B goes with Y, and C goes with Z. Correspondence does not imply congruency, so just be very careful. It does say that AC is equal to DE is equal to EF. And you can even have angles that correspond. So what I'll notice is that angle B and angle E are congruent based on the markings. So let's go back through this and mark out AC and DE and EF. But you'll notice that they're not the same triangle. In fact, even the angles do not necessarily line up, because this angle is actually different than angle D because of the 3 arcs versus the 2 arcs. Okay, so be very careful, but you can still have correspondence, and that's an important takeaway from this. Correspondence has nothing to do with correspondence does not imply congruency, and that's the point of this. It says 2 identical triangles shown below give a triangle correspondence that matches equal sides and equal angles. And what they did is they sort of rotated this and flipped it. And so you've got to be very careful. But I noticed that A has the equal measure. So A corresponds with T because of the measure. And you can go through and you can mark these up with highlighters. It's really helpful. And then it'll help you identify sides. And then angle B has 3 lines, so that would correspond with angle S. So those sort of look like they're in the same location. And then C goes with R. And that'll help you make sure you've identified the correspondences properly. They've labeled them nicely. So angle S and angle C corresponds with angle R. It also says sides, so you can look at the sides, and so I could notice that AC, which is the longest side here, would go with TR, and notice I'm matching up the appropriate letters. Let's go with CB, so CB would go with RS. And finally, BA corresponds with ST. And notice alphabetical order doesn't matter. It all depends on matching up the colored circles with the colored circles. Okay? The summary of all of this is below. You might want to pause, write this down, read through it, and summarize your takeaways. Thank you for your time.